We're just waiting a few more minutes for some board members that have got caught in some traffic. So anyways, give us a few minutes. Thanks. Okay, we've got enough board members here to start tonight. Thank you for being patient. We'd like to welcome everybody that's here. It's such a good feeling to have a room full of people, especially the kids that are here that are on the agenda, first on the agenda. So we are grateful, and I know there was a train and traffic, and anyways, we'll just start right away with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'd like to excuse Camille Knutson on the school board. She will not make it tonight, but everyone else should be here shortly. Also, I want to welcome all of our district office staff, and thanks for their support, and members. I think I see members of classifieds and certified employees, our unions. Yeah, thank you for coming. We appreciate you. And maybe of the media I think our media person is usually here. So anyways, thank you very much for coming. We are just going to go ahead and get started with number 2 on the agenda, recognition and good news. And we'll turn the time over to Principal Silva with Stansbury Park Elementary.
I'm really excited to be here as representing Stansbury Park Elementary. And we just have a great staff, students, and parents. And you can see we have a great showing tonight from the community. So it's really awesome. I'm really happy to recognize these people. I would just love to recognize as many people as I can. But we will start with our Volunteer of the Year, and that is Jennifer Shields. So if Jennifer will come up. Okay, Jennifer Shields is our PTA president, and what a job it has been throughout the pandemic. But she and the PTA team did not forget about us and the students. And even though what they traditionally have done had to be accomplished in new ways, we appreciate all that she has achieved this year and in all the years she's been a volunteer at SPES. She has 4 children who have attended our school and has helped so many teachers throughout this time. Here is what some of the teachers had to say about her. Jen is always thinking about the teachers and trying to find creative ways to help, encourage, and praise them. She is pro-education, trustworthy, patient, and reliable. Jennifer has been a consistent and hardworking volunteer for years. We have benefited from her willingness to donate time and energy to anything that's asked of her. She is an important member of our Stansbury Park Superstar team. So thank you, Jennifer, for all that you have done for us. Yeah, thank you so much.
Jennifer, come and we'll give you elbow bumps.
Before that, we want you to introduce anybody that you have here with you.
Well, my daughter has a band concert, so.
Yay!
Thank you on behalf of the administration and the board and Tooele Education Foundation.
Oh, wow. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
You bet.
This is all for me, huh?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's all for you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, all my teachers.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, Mrs. Cox. She is our classified employee that we would like to recognize this evening. So Mrs. Cox has been instilling a love of reading to children in the community for 16 years. She was born and raised in England, and her British accent makes listening to stories a whole new experience for students. Right, students? It's awesome, isn't it? She knows how important it is for students to feel success and gain an admiration of reading, so she keeps the library stocked with popular books and classics. Mrs. Cox is highly regarded among her colleagues. Her work ethic is second to none. During the closure, she was here every day, sorting through books and ordering new ones. She helped with distributing lunches and cleaning the school. When school started back up again, she felt strongly that our students needed the experience of going into the library and checking out books. She figured out a way to social distance, disinfect between groups, and she quarantined books when they were turned back in. Her dedication and innovation made it possible for our students to continue enjoying the library. In addition, Mrs. Cox has an outstanding attendance and punctuality record. She rarely takes a day off, and I've never seen her be late. She is dependable and contributes to the climate and culture of our school in a positive, unique way. Thank you for all you do for our school. Thank you. Air hug. Air hug.
Tell us who you have here with you.
I'm just by myself.
Okay. Well, we're going to give you a big bag of goodies, and thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next we have Mrs. White, and she is our SPES Teacher of the Year.
Yay!
Mrs. White has been teaching 6th grade students for 14 years at Stansbury Park Elementary. One of her team members had this to say about her. She works hard at making sure her students understand the concepts she is teaching. She genuinely cares about them and their success. This is evident as I observe in her classroom and in the achievement levels of her students. In her classroom, students are always engaged. A colleague describes her as having passion and zeal for teaching. She uses many strategies, including technology, cooperative learning, and hands-on experiences to support student learning. A parent noted that Mrs. White makes learning fun and ensures that students know they are the most important part of the classroom. She makes sure students understand the content and are not left behind. She works at providing a learning environment where all students can be successful academically and where their individual needs will be addressed. Thank you for all your hard work and service. Yay, Crystal. Air hug. Air hug. Air hug.
Do you have anybody here with you? Introduce them for us.
I have my husband and my 2 kids.
Okay, now I need our student that we're recognizing, and that is Earl Tate. So Earl, will you come up? Okay, I'm going to start with some background information about Earl and some of the challenges he's had going on for about a year and a half or two, somewhere around there? Yeah, okay, sorry. Got short, close distance, and I'm looking out far, so it's kind of hard. Okay. In August 2019, just before his second grade year, and he's in third right now, Earl was diagnosed with a tumor on his cerebellum, which caused hearing loss and affected limb function and coordination. He had a surgery that was successful in killing the tumor, but his hearing never came back in one ear, and the paralysis was still there on the left side. He was unable to blink or close his eye, which resulted in an ulcer on his cornea and affected his vision. So right now it's 20/2100 in his left eye. Earl traveled to Boston 2 times for innovative surgeries. They took nerves out of his legs and connected them to his face. And now they are waiting for the axioms to grow through the nerves and for him to be able to blink and regain movement in his face. His mom said he's been so brave during this process. At times he would be upset, but would quickly pull himself back together and face whatever challenges came his way. He never complained when the nurses had a hard time finding a vein for the IV, or when he lost function of half of his face. But he did complain about one thing. He was sick of missing school. That's awesome. He doesn't pity himself or dwell on the negative. He just keeps moving forward with a smile on his face. Earl never expects special treatment and wants to live life like nothing has changed. His teacher, Mrs. Jukes, says that Earl has been through so much this year and has always kept a smile on his face. Not only has COVID made everything harder, but in the midst of it all, he had to miss weeks of school for some painful surgeries. However, he's completed all the work he missed while away and returned to school ready to learn more. He's smart, friendly, kind, and has a great sense of humor. Nothing seems to get him down or slow him down. He's been a great example to his classmates about what it truly means to do hard things, and he still lets his superstar light shine through. We love you, Earl. Woo! Look at that! Standing ovation for you. You can go right up there, right here.
Earl, would you tell us who you have here with you? Do you have family members today? Your family? Okay, raise your hand, family. Yay, look at all those family. All right, Earl. We don't have a big bag of goodies for you. We've got something else, okay? Now, the girls get unicorns, and the boys get dragons. Have you ever seen a blue dragon? There you go.
Oh my.
Okay, now we have a student group who will come up and share some things they've been working on. We have students from Mrs. Reynolds' class, and they will do a presentation about their garden. This has been a great experience for the students, and we appreciate Mrs. Reynolds for guiding and supporting them. They will talk about how this idea became a reality, and they started months and months ago, and they've had a lot of community involvement and support with it, so it's been really amazing. So the students will show some Google Slides as they present.
we voted on a project to do this year. We decided on a garden to give students a chance to have fresh vegetables and herbs, but also to give extra produce to the homeless. We then wrote letters to Miss Silva asking for permission. Once we had permission, we looked for a place for our garden. Our custodian, Teddy, thought this would be a good place, and we agreed.
Next, we worked on designing our garden spot. As we worked on, as we explored ways to design our spot, we learned about area and perimeter. We used everyone's ideas in our final design.
We planted seeds indoor to learn about plant structure and their growth cycle. We did experiments to learn about what plants needed to grow and be healthy. We have a grow table in our classroom so we were able to watch and journal the progress of our plants. We created a line plot with how tall our plants were getting.
We had a wonderful donation of 5 garden boxes from parents. We set the boxes up and watched how the sun shone on them to make sure we had enough light. We adjusted the garden box placement. We could not wait until our soil was delivered. Finally, the delivery day arrived with a donation of soil from Adobe Rocks. We all came to help fill the boxes with soil. We had a lot of fun.
Once the soil was delivered, we anxiously waited for warmer nights to plant our plants. We have planted some pea, lettuce, carrot, and cabbage seeds. We also planted some pumpkin plants that were not doing well inside. We met at Home Depot to purchase more vegetable, herb, and flower plants. We wanted to have a variety of things in our garden. We have had a great experience learning about gardening this year.
Thank you, Mrs. Silva and Stansbury Park Elementary. We appreciate it. We are,
Madam Chair,
yes,
I move that we take a recess.
okay.
I'll second that.
We're going to take a recess. If anyone wants to go ahead and leave, we're going to help the elementary students and get pictures and do that with this large of a crowd. Thank you. Oh, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Put a time on that, but everybody's back.
Okay, did Marie make it back in? Okay, good. I just knew you were taking pictures out there of our Stansbury Park Elementary. Okay, on to...
Madam President,
yes.
I'd like to motion that we consider item 6 and item 7 on the agenda next, if we could, please. Just there's a couple things we need to cover.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
It's been motioned by Scott, seconded by Bob to move items 5 and 6 and 7?
6 and 7,
Oh, 6 and 7 to
next on the agenda.
next on the agenda. Do we have any discussion to that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, let's go to action items, the trust land plans. Oh,
No, I said 6 and 7.
he
so
said 6
1.
and 7.
We can cover 5 in a minute if you want.
Okay.
After.
Okay, trust land plans. Area directors. Does anybody have any, these are being submitted for board approval, right? Okay.
Lost connection to the internet again.
Does anyone have any questions for the area directors?
I have one question. So how is Blue Peak and Online Blue Peak, are they the same trust land plan this year? I don't.
I was told I wouldn't have to speak tonight, so I'm just going to give you a head. No. So for next year, Blue Peak and Blue Peak Online's trust lands have been split according to heads. So that's why you saw, if you looked at those plans, you noticed that Blue Peak brick and mortar went way down and Blue Peak Online got the lion's share of that money because that's where the lion's share of kids are.
Okay, so, okay, I was trying to figure out, because I guess I didn't understand when I was reading it, because I saw the two different things, but then I saw just the total under Blue Peak. So when they separated their spending, that was between.
So Blue Peak brick and mortar submitted a trust lands plan. Blue Peak Online's is still in the works, if I'm not mistaken, because they have to form they're having to form a whole community council and everything to approve those plans, and Mr. Strain needed a little more time.
So for this next year, that 500 and whatever figure was, that's all for Blue Peak this next year?
So Kendall had a significant amount of carryover from this year that he gets to keep. And so that's what he was spending. But you noticed, if you looked at what his allocation was, it was very small. Like, I don't have it in front of me, but it was a very small amount. But he had a significant amount of carryover from this past year that he will retain, and Hal will get his new amount when they get their community council form and a plan turned in and approved.
Okay, I just thought that was a lot for Blue Peak if they were splitting, but
Yes,
with
it
carryover
is,
and
except that
different.
that's just carryover money that was allocated to Blue Peak before the schools split, and they get to retain that even though Blue Peak Online is leaving.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was my question.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
Madam Chair, I motion that we approve the trust land plans as presented for the school year 2021-2022.
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Scott, seconded by Julia to approve the trust land plans for 2021-22. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, 6.2. Chantel Cowan, sex education materials and yearly data.
All right, it's that time of year to present the yearly data for you. As you can see that we've had 16 incidences of pornography reported. We are still working on a system to make that more accurate. I believe that there were probably more. So we're still working out that system a little bit. But for your information, teen pregnancy is gone down a little bit in Tooele County. We went from 16.8 of a rate down to 12.6, which is good. However, unfortunately, chlamydia, gonorrhea have increased, but they've increased across the state. The good news is we have no cases of syphilis. Syphilis is actually making a rise in Salt Lake County right now. So those are kind of our STD rates right now. On a happy note, no, just kidding. For 2020, we actually had for Tooele County 75 substantiated child sex abuse cases. And we're required by law to report this information to you, but one of the reasons why we also collect and report this information is so that when we go back and we look at our health curriculum, specifically our sex ed portion of our health curriculum, that we can take into account these numbers and the rises and the trends that we're seeing so that we can make sure that we're instructing appropriately for our children. And so these are definitely areas that we can focus on. Also for information are the tentative Sex Education Curriculum Committee dates that have been listed and the current members of that committee. You will see that there are 2 blanks. I'm just waiting for them to get back to me I didn't want to put their name out there until they gave me the final yes, it's okay to put my name out there. So that's just kind of the information for you. The action item is we did meet on April 15th and we did review labor and vaginal birth video by Nucleus Medical Media. And we would like that approved for our Health 1 and Health 2 classes. So, any questions?
Can I ask a question, Madam President? Just to clarify, parents always have the option to opt out if they're not okay with their kids seeing it.
Absolutely. For maturation in 5th grade and for Health 1 and Health 2, which is in our junior high and our high school, parents actually have to opt in for their students to be able to see this material.
Okay.
When we do talk about sex abuse prevention in elementary, we do provide parent notice that we're going to be talking about sex abuse prevention.
Okay.
And that one's an opt-out, correct? Just because I just got the note this week. Okay.
That's a notification.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you.
You need a motion, right? Or you need us to approve. So I will motion that we approve for use in our, this is from memory, because Health 1 and Health 2 classes, the video clip, Labor and Vaginal Birth by the Nucleus Media Group, Medical Group. Let's try that again. Nucleus Medical Media.
I'll second.
It's been motioned by Scott, seconded by Valerie, that the video clip, Labor and Vaginal Birth by Nucleus Medical Media be approved for both junior high and high school health classes. Health 1 and Health 2, is that how you said it? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, 6.3, new policy, student and employee data protection. It's a first read. Mr. Hansen. Thank you.
So what we're doing with these policy, we have an existing policy that right now where it exists is it sits in the staff columns in the policy. And so what we're doing as part of this, we're making adjustments to the policy with a few state codes and then some adjustments referencing some false references what was in there before and then some references that references a data governance plan at the end of it. And then as part of this process, we're going to retire the 4028. Gotta look at it. Yeah, 4028. So we'll retire that policy and then we'll move the policy into 8018.
Okay.
Where it reflects more for staff members and students. So more logical place to put it.
Okay.
Madam
Yes,
President.
Dr. Rogers.
So, Alan, just a quick clarification. So, Utah Code 53E93, the Utah Student Data Protection Act. Of course, that's new, and it's designed to protect student privacy and ensure data security, et cetera, not just for our district, but any contractors we have, et cetera. Was this the model policy that was developed by USBA? And
It is part of it, and what
Okay.
it is, a lot of the policies that some of the other districts were reflecting on was our actual data governance plan, which is more of a plan than it is a policy.
Okay.
And so what we decided to do was reference our data governance plan instead of, the data governance plan is more of a fluid document that is constantly changing, so we reference that plan in our student data privacy policy rather than changing it, creating a new policy we'd have to come back and change almost on a yearly basis.
Second question is, thank you. Would it be fair to say that, I mean, I'm looking in here and we talk about procedures and definitions and just the technology security, but the training piece, it specifies that we're gonna, roll out training to all of our employees on that. Has that specifically been?
The employee training that does happen on a yearly basis with our safe schools. There's also additional training that is available to our faculty and to our students that is reflected online from the district website in the data privacy area. There's YouTube videos and things like that for training that comes out of USBE, and they're really good training for all these
And
things.
Madam Chair, one follow-up. The third one is, so we heard Chantel get up and talk about incidences of pornography, and I know we have pretty robust systems to filter through SIPA and other regulations around district stuff and district equipment and software and programs, but as far as this and students having the ability to bring 4G or 5G or whatever into the, do we have the ability when those kind of situations happen to track that, or were those all, do you know if all of those numbers were incidents that stuff was brought up on our network, or was it?
On the private end of their phone, which is 5G or LTE, that kind of thing, we have no control over that world.
Okay.
We do have control over the world when we're dealing with Wi-Fi. Now, this year, with our significant increase in devices,
One-to-one,
has been a challenge.
Okay.
The things with our filtering and stuff like that is, there's as much information out there to get around the filters that it is to challenge. And so we seem like we're always kind of behind the game a little bit, but we're steadily kind of learning their process and the things there to be able to make adjustments to our filtering. And just recently, in the last couple of weeks, we've actually seen some significant increases in the ability to, we're kind of getting into the mind of what they're doing. Right, to
And
get
I
around
bring
the
that up
filters
because,
and stuff.
parents rely on us to ensure that kids, when they're online on our network, that they're doing so safely, that they're supervised by, teachers or aides, and.
Yes, and
So-
that's where we rely on a lot of information is when we rely on parents and teachers and other students and stuff to be able to reflect back to us information that we may be missing in the filtering.
Okay.
And we have got a pretty significant amount of data from all those areas this year. And it's really helped us to be able to kind of really put some things in place in the filter. It's not a perfect science, definitely not a perfect science, but we're able to kind of curb a bunch of the areas where they have been heading. So.
Thank you.
And the request is also to do that we update this and revise it today.
Okay. Okay, I'm looking for a motion. The recommended action is on the agenda, if someone just wants to read it from there.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Bob?
I move that we approve the new policy 8018, student and employee data protection for implementation.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Bob, seconded by Scott, to approve new policy 8018, student and employee data protection for implementation. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. 6.4 is
And then it's
To
basically retire it because
retire
it's
it.
replacing it.
I'll motion that we retire policy 4028, technology security.
Second.
It's been motioned by Scott, seconded by Bob to retire policy 4028, technology security. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 6.5, new policy, education and family privacy. Mr. Matt Jackson, our special ed director, thank you.
So where this is a new policy, we're just looking to move this on to a second read so that we can have a little more input. It provides a little bit more about what informed consent is if we do testing with kids or things like that within the district. So
Turn on your mic.
Let's see, I will motion to move education and family privacy policy to a second read.
It's been moved by Julia, seconded by Bob to move education and family privacy to a second read. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, Lark Reynolds, our 3,000 business section.
Yeah, last time, we went over the budget area. It was nice. We consolidated a lot of one-word policies into multiple ones. It was kind of nice. So I apologize that this next area went the other way. We had an old policy 3016, as you recall, that we eliminated. And you can see I'm not done with it yet. We had it in sections here. I have the procurement policy got much more detailed in the drafts that we've received from our attorney. And so very few tweaks from the model policies are in there, but as you know, Patrick does a good job. He happens to have written these as far as putting the links to the code and everything that's in there. So we have the current law that's in there. And so I realize that it's wordy, but it's very detailed and goes over those fine specs that he puts in there. So hopefully, unless you have any questions as you read through them, those are basically, other than, as I said, a few minor tweaks, the model policies.
Are you looking for approval or for second read?
We can go either way. Right now, we don't have the procurement part has been taken out. If you want to move it forward for a second read, we can do that.
But currently, if we don't do that, we don't have a procurement policy actually in place. So
not
because we
currently.
retired it last.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct.
And based on the fact that they're from our attorney, I mean, it feels...
It's a model policy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that in mind, then I would just motion that we approve the new policies 3009 through 3017 as presented for implementation.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Scott, seconded by Valerie to implement policies 3009 through 3017 for implementation. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, the election, 6.7, the election for delegates at large. If you look at the board committee assignments, if you just open that up, the delegate at large, our two people are already Camille and Bob Gowan, Camille Knutson and Bob Gowans. Because we are a large district, we needed two, what's the word? Alternates. We needed two alternates. So,
Madam President, in talking with Board Member Knutson, she serves as the region elected delegate to Delegate Assembly, and Bob has accepted the assignment to be the delegate for the district because we're a large district.
right.
And then we received an email from Judy at USBA, and she indicated that we'll need to have two alternates to cover those two positions in case they're not able. We're really talking about a Friday night and a Saturday in typically August. So.
And it's only if they
think-
can't make it.
Right.
So don't jump up and volunteer. too slowly because you might miss out on the opportunity.
Can Bob be the backup?
Do you already have a date for it?
It's like the 19th and
So it's about the third weekend.
yeah, it's the third weekend in August.
And the Friday night, Madam President and board members,
Was-
is usually just a training type of a leadership type.
Yeah, I
or
think I went last year and it
sometimes
was
they'll
like
bring
dinner and
legislators there and talk about new bills and that kind of a thing. And then the Friday is the actual delegate assembly. And I know, I think Julie's been and.
I'll
you-
volunteer to be one of the alternates, right, Bob? I'll be an alternate.
I would be willing to be the other alternate, I think.
Do we need a vote, or are you guys okay with,
You can vote right now and make it official.
oh, Mr. Bryan, that is funny. Why don't you make the motion then? I think we have to vote on it, actually, right? It's a,
Then I will motion that we designate Valerie and Melissa to be our alternates to the USBA. What is it?
delegate assembly.
Delegate Assembly.
Second.
It's been moved by Scott, seconded by Ellen, for Valerie Shields and Melissa Rich to be the the alternates to the delegate assembly. All in favor? Aye.
And
Any
thank you.
opposed?
With our deepest gratitude.
Can I oppose it, even though it's last? I could.
You could.
I won't, though. Yeah. Motion passes. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. 6 and 7. Oh, 7-1. Okay, this is Marianne Oborn. Are you here? This is just the revised policy, right?
Yes, this is
'Kay.
just the revised homeless policy. We
'Kay.
took the US code, and that's what most all the changes are from is that. We looked at other districts' policies while we were going through this, and they have done similar things in their policies. So it's just a revision to bring it up to compliance. So you can use it as a first read, or if there's things you'd like us to go back on, we can do that also, whichever you would like.
It's a
with this.
model policy, though.
It's a model policy, yes.
So it doesn't need a second read, or it does?
It does.
Okay.
It doesn't.
I will make a motion that we approve the revised policy 5035, homeless students for implementation. Oh, I guess just policy 5035 for implementation. Is that right? Did I do that right?
Mm-hmm.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Valerie, seconded by Julia, to approve revised policy 5035 for implementation. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Madam President, just looking at the agenda, could I motion that we move Section 4 and Section 5 for the next items on the agenda tonight?
Do I have a second? Do I have a second from the board?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Scott, seconded by Alan, to move Section 4 and 5 to the, ma'am, it's set by, the agenda is set and board members can do that. And so I'd ask that you not interrupt it's a public meeting, but thank you. Okay, let's move on to consent items, Section 4. Do we need to pull, or do we have yeah.
I would like to pull 4-7 off the agenda and consider it separate.
Okay, do I have a second?
You don't need a second on this.
Oh, we don't need a second, sorry. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the consent items except for 4.7?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent items except for 4.7.
I'll second.
Motion by Julia, seconded by Alan, to approve the consent items except for 4.7. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. 4.7.
Just the reason I asked that to be pulled is just, we're kind of back to where we were in our last board meeting with the amount of travel, and I still have concerns about the number of out-of-state travel. And, you know, and now this time, not just with the cross-country, but also with the DECA students that are going to both Atlanta and New York. But I have those concerns and wanted to voice them, and then I'll get outvoted like I do every meeting, so.
Are the DECA students, is that like a competition or something that's like a?
I think it's the national. Oh, turn your mic on, sorry.
Okay, so why are the DECA students going? Is it a competition, or is it a?
We got a flurry of travel requests from DECA, and so I'd have to look at which specific one. They do have some competitions, and are they for next year?
Yeah, next April.
Yeah, and like to New York and Georgia, so
So I don't believe those are competitions. I believe those are, they do some things to go see businesses and different things, and I believe it's that kind of a extracurricular field trip.
And just so.
Not mistaken.
Well, and my concern just stems from the cost, and especially now the district, when they become approved activities from the district, we're responsible for those costs for any students that are on free or reduced meals. And so the potential cost of that to the district becomes fairly significant.
Absolutely.
And hence my concern.
And so just since I have open mic, I'm
Yeah.
just going to ask, when those come to us, like we go through and we dot our I's and cross our T's to make sure that the request is appropriate to push on. Do you want us not to push those onto you? How would you like us to handle
Well, I'm one of 7, and so I usually on the wrong end of one of 7. So, so I think it's appropriate it comes to board for conversation. Okay. This would be my suggestion.
I like
Julia.
I like the competitions and things like that, or if they're presenting or something like that. I'm just wondering if they're just going to see businesses. I'm not sure.
Well, and 2 during the same school year seems like a lot, like, because they're going to New York in December and Georgia in April, which.
So they came, those particular travel requests, they came in a flurry as soon as out-of-state travel was approved again.
Okay.
And so I just made sure that they had, to be honest, Christy McLaughlin, I don't know if she's here.
I don't think she's here.
But she oversees all the CTE programs, and she might be the better one to ask to do that. So, but I'm happy to screen them however you guys would have me do. I mean, I don't, like I say, we just go through and make sure they are filled out appropriately for your approval. So that's what we do. So.
It just seems like whatever we do, we need to be consistent through the clubs and the schools.
Yeah.
If the same group and the same students are going on 2 large trips, you may be pushing that $4,000 maximum with the other things that those kids do.
That's what I was thinking. And then we would have to cover those costs.
That's correct.
One of the things, and I think, and you guys will have to tell me if this is appropriate or not, but one of the things that I know there was a discussion a number of years ago in CTE is that they could do their national competitions, and then about every 3rd or 4th year, it seemed to me that they could go on another out-of-state trip for those that didn't compete in the national competition. So it would be and I can make the motion to this so that we can at least have it checked in too. I would say that we table the 2 items of DECA until the next meeting. And I would also, because if I remember correctly, Scott, I think the cross-country team has been taking 1 trip a year to go run out of state, but I didn't know if they were going on 2. So I'd also table the 2 cross-country so that we can ask those questions.
The 2 cross countries, this came up last year. They considered Boise, correct me if I'm wrong, kind of an in-state because it was as close as, am I remembering?
That's what the suggestion
But I
was.
feel like they've always gone to Boise. I remember it's just like, and they always.
They've always
go
gone to Boise. I don't know about the Walnut, California one.
They do
they?
always
Okay.
go
Except for
to
maybe last year.
both. Yeah,
Well,
they.
if that's the case, then I'd only pull the DECA ones.
Yeah.
Or
Madam
table the
President,
DECA.
just a suggestion, more internal for us, to Jeff's, Mr. Ham's question. I think we ought to have a column. I mean, they did a really good job of making sure that we had a list.
Yeah.
But what's not on there is a description or a justification that gives you more of, is this required? Is this UHSAA related? Is this, kind of a, and
idea.
is it the same group that's, but I'm just thinking maybe an additional column on that spreadsheet that just talks about a justification. And I personally, to your question, do you have the authority to turn that down? Yes, we have found that when we have done that at the district level, that folks have wanted to come and appeal to the board. And maybe that's a better process, actually, to appeal to the board for reconsideration and have our area directors, because we have talked in the past about area directors helping to answer questions, especially with regard to, is your group taking more than one out-of-state trip? So just something to clarify that maybe a little bit more.
And I just think, just the last thing I would say is that I think you got a flurry this year when the gates opened. I think people said, oh my gosh, while the window is open, let's turn these in. And so I think you've probably gotten more than you would if the status quo had been maintained in a typical year. So, but we're happy to tweak the form however you would like. So, and I can go back and have the conversation with them to see if it's a national competition or whatever too.
Bob has a motion.
Yeah, I was going to
Yes.
say, Bob has a motion to.
I don't think there's a second.
Do we have a
To
second?
table it.
Okay, Julia seconded it. We have a motion by Bob, seconded by Julia to approve 4.7 except for the DECA trips from Tooele High School, and they will be on next agenda. All in favor?
Wait.
Oh, wait.
Hold on. Bob, was that, or did you cross-country, it was in?
Well, after they clarified that that's what we had done in the past, so I left that in. So only the DECA.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Okay, 5.1, Superintendent's Report.
Okay, we have a lot of guests here, so I'm going to try to be brief on this report. This is the report that you asked me to provide, and we ran out of time at our work session. And so you have a lot of information, and what I suggested at the work session was, please look it over, and if you have any questions, let me know. But I want to go to the PowerPoint slide, Matt, if you wouldn't mind. Okay. Let me just, is it helpful for you if I'm here, or I don't mind going up? Is it more helpful if you can see me, or am I okay to sit here?
You're okay.
All right, so what I wanted to review, so what you asked me to do was talk about our current strategic plan and what we were doing moving forward. So the current strategic plan is listed here. We've had that for a couple of years. We're still working on some of those goals, but really it covers student achievement, school climate, communication, business operation, and human resources. Now, last year we talked about 2030 and getting lots of stakeholder input on our strategic plan. And but then, of course, COVID happened, and we were struggling to meet requirements and guidelines, et cetera. So we postponed that. But we're at that point now where we need to relook what does the district, what do our patrons, what do our citizens and our taxpayers want the district to look like in 2030? You typically do about a 10-year, look out. And so the last time we did a strategic plan was 2020 and to 2024, and we've met all of the requirements with this bond on that, all the goals of that. So we're really needing to do that. Now the question is, how do we go about that? Well, we also have several other different plans going on, and We have not just a strategic plan, but we're required by law to develop a school improvement plan, regardless of what school grading our kids get and our schools get for our students. So when you look at strategic planning and you look at the need to have a technology plan and a learning plan for school improvement, instead of having these loosely coupled plans that are out here, what would it take for us to weave those together into a comprehensive plan? And so why don't we move to the next slide? So what we've learned from the participation in University of Virginia and the University of Washington programs is take 3 to 5 goals. When I talked to Park City about their strategic plan, they said it had 1,500 pages. And most people don't read a 1,500-page strategic plan. And most of them were appendices. So what most of the experts are saying is do 3 to 5 goals and limit it to that. Limit your scope. They also talk about this law of aggregated marginal gains, that you will see improvement for students if you focus on sometimes the small things and you do that consistently. For example, for us, it's K through 3 literacy and reading, and needing to continue to do that so it's not a new flavor of the month. Through this process, we need to talk about non-negotiables. What are we tight on and what are we loose on? And this is the quote by David Allen: you can do anything but not everything. We can't possibly work school improvement on every topic, but if you pick 1 or 2 things, you can see some growth through those aggregated marginal gains. So we need to pay attention to scope, that it doesn't creep to become too large to really be beneficial to the district. The next slide is clarity of focus, and I just love this quote. Diffused light has little use, but when energy is concentrated, it can set fire to paper. And we all know that if it's even concentrated even more and focused even more, it has the power to cut through steel, like some of our plasma torches, plasma cutters at the high school. So we need to be very laser focused. And so the question is on what? Because there's lots of different opinions, and how do we blend, teacher and staff and parent and student opinions together into a strategic plan that makes sense and is simple enough to move forward. So that's the second principle. The third principle is, I want to talk about, so Herb Kellerer, you guys, you probably know the story of Southwest Airlines. When Southwest Airlines came to be, he said, we're going to do one thing well. We're going to be the lowest priced airline. And after about a year or so, people came to him and said, people are really tired of lining up and first come, first serve to get on the plane. Have you ever thought about first class and second class and whatever? And his question was, will that help us meet our goal, our one goal? No, not really, but people really, then we're not doing it. And then a little bit later, a year or so after that, people said, his staff said people are getting tired of having peanuts when they fly from Salt Lake to Atlanta. What about meals? What about this? And his question was, will it help us with our main goal? So this quote is basically, we were just as proud, and they of course, by focusing, were able to become the lowest, the most profitable airline, as well as they had great customer satisfaction. But they only focused on that one thing, is the price of their tickets. So I think we have to make sure that our focus is clear in what we're doing. So the next slide is alignment. What we're trying to do with this Cognia and our strategic plan is to align our systems accreditation, which our high schools have to do. There are only 3 districts that are accredited. Or only 2 right now. Ogden School District went through this, and Davis School District, where every school at the elementary level, junior high level, and high school level was accredited. So we are really interested. We're in the process of systems-wide accreditation, and it will pull together strategic planning and board goals and school improvement. So what I've given you in the next slide is that it has to be collaborative. We have to work together, and we have to try to listen to a variety of points and then make the decision on what things we're going to be tight on and what things we're going to be loose on and where we're going to put our money and our investment for our kids.
Do you mind if I ask a question?
Yes, please.
How many schools do we have accredited right in our district right
Just
now?
high schools.
All the
All
high
high
schools?
schools.
Oh, okay, but no elementaries.
No, we haven't. And really what happens is, and high school principals can tell you that really the district doesn't have much of a role. This will be the district having a role so that we can blend these processes together of strategic plan and accreditation. They shouldn't be independent of each other. They really should be blended together. So it will be new for our elementaries and our junior highs, but we're going to provide lots of assistance, and we have this whole year to basically put the evidence in to see if our system can't be accredited, and how nice it will be when our elementaries and our junior highs are accredited against standards, not just waiting for KSL to say, hey, here's the ranking of our schools, but to be accredited compared to fundamental standards and best practices. So it has to be collaborative. And then I think, next slide, there's only a couple more. So what we're talking about is you're never there. It's never, okay, we're done improving. It's a continuous cycle. Next slide, Matt. And then the last principle is communication. So we've got to have it updated on our website. We've got to have stakeholder surveys and meetings. It's got to involve all schools. And because we don't want to set a strategic plan that only involves our high schools or elementary, we want to include all of our schools. And that it's a simple process. And at the end, we have it on our website, as well as we have some published materials that say, hopefully, a lot smaller than 1,500 pages like Park City and their strategic plan. You know, maybe 4 or 5, 6 pages that highlights what it is. And I left you an example in this packet of the state of Utah. They've done a good job talking about the profile of a graduate, what they want students to accomplish by the time. So we're going to weave that into our strategic plan, that profile of a graduate. So the next one is kind of the timeline. Some of you have asked. We've got our readiness review on the 20th. And then we're going to, in summer, we're going to get to staff surveys and board retreat and planning so that the board can have input into that strategic planning process, and then community meetings and stakeholder meetings in the fall. And then there's lots of administrative PD, and then PD that gets passed on to the schools. And we collect our evidence to become accredited as a district and every school in that 5-year cycle. And then we have our system accreditation review next spring. And then the strategic plan, tools, and documents kind of flow from that. So what's interesting is that I was contacted by Rick Robbins from Canyons. This is the exact process that they're going to start now. We're ahead of them a couple of months, about 6 months. But that's the timeline, and I know there was a question about when we're going to launch some of those surveys and get input. So staff and patrons will have an opportunity to provide input on, and what we're really looking at is what are the common denominators? What are the common factors that we could all agree on? So, and then I think I've got a couple more. The other piece is that you ask about, this is our current organizational chart, but I'm proposing a new, and the new organizational chart with some people leaving will change, and I usually do that and update that in the summer. What I want to propose to you is what we're really trying to do. I want to show you in a traditional organizational chart, it's very hierarchical, right? And it's a little bit siloed, and we've had some problems with one department not working with another one, and we really need to collaborate and cross those lines. So I want you to think of it as like the next slide. That's the current org chart, but the next slide, I want you to think of it as that way. What if you took and moved from hierarchy to relationships and teaming and collaboration? And I'm just using the old Venn diagram. So the 3 areas of the accreditation review for Cognia, which is West Ed, and we've got people in the high schools that have done that West Ed, are leadership capacity, learning capacity, and resource alignment. What if you thought about, and so I want to just point out to you guys that the sweet spot is right here. And the goal is to grow the triangle because, right here is area directors and, superintendent, your leadership group. This is your teaching and learning and your curriculum department. And this is your resource capacity of your finance and business and all those resources. where the magic happens is where they cross over, right? Talk about the lowest common denominator. And really, what you're trying to do is, in a strategic plan, move those circles closer together. So students are at the middle of this plan. So move to the next slide, and then I'm about wrapped up. So what you see here is just the model. Now, I don't have it in the chart form, but you have under the leadership capacity, and there are 15 standards for Cognia on what is a quality school district. What is a quality school? So you've got your board and your area directors and student services and communications and risk and safety. I'm the point person as far as administrator of the district office on leadership capacity. Mark, and many of you asked the question, why aren't we replacing Trish? Well, we did. We replaced Trish with Mark and elevated that to assistant superintendent because we had an opportunity with Dolene retiring, which I'm still not really happy about because I'm going to really miss her. She's a great assistant superintendent. So Mark is going to take, in this model, the learning capacity, which includes student achievement, curriculum, federal programs, special ed, preschool, CTE, all of our programs, right? This is our principals in our schools, and then it would flow down to teachers. And then I'm proposing that Lark take over the resource capacity. So we have 3 people that coordinate that effort, and we'll provide support to our schools. And that's budget and finance and human resources and IT and front desk and capital outlay and maintenance and all those operation departments. So as we talk about reinventing ourselves, I want you to think about the relationship between those 3 areas, and really the sweet spot is right there in that classic Venn diagram. And so look in the middle is students. And I would add that staff and parents, stakeholders, maybe it should say stakeholders, but our main goal is to have a great learning experience for all of our students. And we want to grow that, and we want to squish those Venn diagrams where they overlap more and more, and we focus on the important things. So that's the trick in this process, is to identify what is that triangle and what does it consist of, and what are 1 to 2 to 3, maybe 5 at the most goals that we could come up with. So that's my update because, Melissa, when I talked with you, you said you wanted to know a little bit about organizational model. We're in the process right now. As you know, we've, and on the personnel side, we've recommended Dr. Sarah Jarnigan to take Joanne Kuhn's spot as Stansbury Area Director. We've upgraded, or we've hired, not upgraded. We've hired, we're hiring a communications, a curriculum. We moved Cody Reutzel into the assessment director, and so the curriculum director for language arts with the interviews for today, and we'll get that forwarded to you. And then we made Mark Ernst, Dr. Ernst, the assistant superintendent, and we're giving him teaching and learning. And then I'll be taking area directors. And the nice thing about that is Lark will take basically all of the departments, classified departments, and then Dr. Ernst and I will be able to focus on the learning mission, which is our main, when you look at the main work of school boards, it's academic achievement. And so there'll be 2 of us that are really going to laser focus on academic achievement. So this is kind of the model, and when we finish our hiring and some of those positions moving, we'll give you a traditional organizational chart so that you can look at. But I just wanted to introduce that to you and let you know that on the 20th, we've got, I think, 3 board members invited to sit down when we do that readiness review with Cognia. And I copied you all on that 49-slide deck that our team put together to review how we do in those standards and look at our assessment data and look at our school improvement planning. So do you have any questions about the timeline, the process, and how we're viewing really blending all of these together into a simple process, or fairly simple process?
I was just going to tell you, Superintendent, I appreciate that. That helps clarify understanding what you're doing. I really like that focus and the fact that center of that is the students in the center of what we're trying to do. So I appreciate it. Thanks for taking a minute and doing that.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Moving on to 5.2, Counselor and Social Services Update. Mary Ann, you're back up here.
Again.
Thank you.
All right. Do you have that PowerPoint for me? First off, I just wanted to make sure and just tell you thank you so much on your support of counseling and the superintendent. We're way ahead of several districts in the state in our supports of counseling, especially in the elementary level. So I just have to do a really shout out to our support from the superintendent and school board on that, because there's no way that would happen without you. So as they're bringing up that slide, I'll just start talking a little bit about what we're doing. In elementary counseling, this is our year 3 of our elementary grant. That pays for some of our elementary counselors. We have already submitted the grant for renewal of that. We should find that out on May 26th of what we receive. So that is submitted for that. And then we're getting ready to submit our final, the data parts for completion of this year. So we'll be getting that in submission here soon. Our schools are required to do data projects every year, and we do those K-12. I have listed those on a couple slides down, so we'll be going through those. And then we also have added a new counselor to our Blue Peak Online this year. So that's a brand new position, and she's been invaluable. So really thanks to Mr. Strain for that. And then we've also, we've just barely hired a second counselor out of our mental health grant to also assist them next year because of the numbers of students at that school. So we will have that coming. With with the COVID and everything this year, a lot of our stuff's been done with Zoom on that, so we'll be talking about that. Also, I've given a board approval letter that we're required to have every year, and Jackie let me know that Superintendent and Melissa that you've received that. Okay. Counselor trainings. All right. We've had a variety of counselor trainings. A couple of them I just kind of wanted to point out is we spent a lot of time on mental health because with COVID, we've had a lot of anxiety and depression with our kids. And so that's been a huge area of focus and need with our counselors. And so we spent a lot of time trying to do additional training and supports with the counselors on that. Child abuse is one of those that we brought in specialists from the county to help do additional trainings, especially at the elementary level in this area, so that we can help our families and our children to know what that looks like, what supports are out there and available for them. We also brought in Dr. Christy Kane. She did some amazing training on some SEL and other types of supports, and she crosses it over between SEL and mental health, so she does a great job that way. News to the state, we don't have Utah Futures anymore. So that ended last year with the legislature, so we have Keys to Success now. That's been a bit of a transition this year because that happened like on the last day of the session. So Keys to Success has been spending the full year getting up to speed when Utah Futures was taken down last June. So our counselors have been working really hard to make that transition. Keys to Success has let us know that by next August, the junior high and they should have some elementary courses available in that, and they're working to get the high school also there. We've also implemented youth science, which is fabulous. It's like a mini ASVAB that our students have access to. It just shows them where their skills are on it with the results. They can look at careers. It gives them information on things that they could use for a resume, different things like that. So fantastic information. We've also been focusing a lot on equity and different things like that. I don't think there's an expert in the state yet in that area. So we've been working hard just talking to counselors about resources and things that we need to start looking into. I know that the state doesn't have anything set on that yet, and so we're just trying to, right now in the study area, of trying to figure out what we can do to support our students in different areas. Next slide. Counselor data projects. That's a list of the data projects that we've had at each of the schools for the 2020 school year. The data projects are always due at the end of the school year, so they're always a year behind in what we share there. A couple of them I really wanted to point out is FAFSA is an ongoing area that we focus in. ACT is another area that is consistently the schools keep looking at. Another one that I was really happy to see is Tooele Junior High had looked at the Hispanic students and how to have that equity of Hispanics being able to obtain access in those honors classes. And we've had a lot of, we've had Stephanie and several times Rolly in to talk about our multilingual learners and how we can give that equity of access for those kids. And then I was really, Willow and Grantsville Elementary did some stuff on cyberbullying this year, and I really have to commend them because they also spent some of their TSSA funds to help increase the access and supports in the mental health area of their school on top of our mental health grant. Next slide. We also have our scholarship coordinators. Jolynn Peterson is at Grantsville Junior, Kristen Cavey at Stansbury High, and Alicia Dangerfield at Tooele High School. We are way lucky to have those three ladies. They are phenomenal. If you've ever gone to their school websites, their showcase websites on what they've done, they help the counseling departments with different things. They have gone out of their way that despite the limits with COVID and the in-person and their things, they've been doing Zoom. So they've done Zoom with the college tours. They've done Zoom with higher education days, and they've done Zoom with FAFSA nights and different things like that. And then they've really tried to also increase their websites and things like that so that they can make sure that despite some of the limitations that have had to be put in place this year, our students can still access the information that's needed, as well as the resources with them personally to be able to get the helps that they have there. Next one. This one's been the mental health screening. That's a new thing. It just passed in the last legislative session. It actually came across our desks in December to be able to write for it. I appreciated the superintendent's support in helping us do that. We used the PHQ-9 and the Columbia Suicide Prevention assessments for this. It was totally voluntary. It was after school. We did it at each of the high schools. We sent out a tool where people could sign up through Qualtrics to attend it. The people that came, they had the opportunity for a 30-minute screening with their child with a therapist. So we paid for multiple of our partnershipping therapists to come in to that. And then we had multiple resources also available. So when the student came out, they would come out with a slip of paper and it says, this student needs additional support, so we would get them on the mental health grant. Or it would say they just need some resources, or they need some additional time just with their school counselor should help them. And so then we were able to pass that information on to their school counselors. And also we filled out the mental health grants right there, got them processed the next day so we could get them into help with that. Some of the numbers with that were interesting were we had 126 that registered for the screeners. We had 77 that showed up and actually did the screenings. We out of those 77, 56 were referred for outside services. So that right there tells you the need for that mental health support. It's very, very high. I so appreciate the braveness of our parents because a lot of people are still fearful of mental health and wanting to come in and get that help. We also, with the services there, we gave the parents the option if they didn't want the school counselor to know. We just worked with them directly through to the therapist. That was very few, maybe 3 or 4 that was there. I added in some of the improvements and things that we learned. There's things that will change always in the first time that you do things. Some of the resources we gave them were ACEs, so they could have a copy of the ACEs test with information on how to access more there. We gave them a resiliency questionnaire they could take home and do. We had people there from Optum for Medicaid signups. We'll change that one up a little bit next year. We'll add that to the Qualtrics survey because then we can do some pre-planning to support those families. And then we'll be working with our therapists and the agencies. We had very positive feedback from the parents and from the therapists also on how it really helped, was something that we needed, and they were glad that they could help with it. And I really appreciated it because we had some nights we were there till 9 o'clock. So I appreciated their time. Our referral, just an update. So it says 317. We're actually today up to 343 on that number. 28 of those are ones that we increased theirs to 10 sessions instead of just the 5. We'll look at doing those session adjustments next time. Okay, next slide. Grants that I've had the opportunity to work with this year. House Bill 373, that's the mental health qualified grant. That's helped pay for 1 elementary counselor, a half a junior high, 2 high school counselors, 1 psychologist, and 1 contracted nurse. The high school counselors next year with increasing funding will increase to 3. And then our mental health partner agencies are down there, and those agencies, one of the things we also updated this year with that is we have an agency assigned to every single one of our schools. So there's 1 day a week where students can, if the parents would like, they can see a therapist at the school. So we have 1 agency assigned for that. The parents do not need to choose that agency. They can choose from any of the agencies that have filled out the MOU and met with our qualifications for the grant for that. The elementary grant we've talked about, and the GEARS grant, we've also partnered in that to also help with some of the mental health. We're looking towards Love and Logic, and then we've also worked on a lot of parent trainings that grant has helped us with. Questions there? Okay, and partnerships, I just wanted to point out, I forgot a couple of critical partnerships on this list. One is Optum. They've taken over from Valley for the county for being our main point of contact for providing. I should have had them on the list. And the other one that's not on there that should be is Tooele City. So I wanted to make sure and point those 2 out, that they're added on my list on my computer. But I noticed when I was going through here that I did inadvertently leave them off. The other one I really wanted to do a shout out to is JJS. They're a fairly new partner in that they're right across the street from the Family Resource Center. They have been an amazing partner with us. We've done a lot with them, both with the counselors. They've gone around, met with all of our high schools. I talk with them very often. Brian Duncan's talking with them regularly. Our counselors are talking with them. They've been a great additional resource to help support our students. And with the mental health grant, we've partnered very, very closely on that. Okay, next screen. Says Tooele Family Resource Center, I should qualify that. This is the Title I component of the Family Resource Center. This is the component where we're doing the classes for our parent nights and our preschool nights. This is not the Family Resource Center of the school part, so I should qualify that. They've done, as we've moved into the new facility, they went from doing on-class trainings with our preschool children to having to do Zoom. So if you want to have a really good, cute little laugh, you can get onto the link, look up YouTube or Facebook and look up TCSD Youth and Family Resource Center, and you'll see Mandy on there, and she's doing cute. She's doing alphabet or behavior things or different things like that with the kids. They have weekly packets. They've increased to 100 packets a week that we have parents coming in and getting to do with their little ones. So it's fantastic what they're doing that way. They do a story and craft time that goes with those, and that's what the parents are coming in, is getting those activities to go with that YouTube channel and such. We also have our parent trainings. They do kindergarten readiness. They had 100 parents who took advantage of that this year. And we also have had Guiding Good Choices. We've had 5 sessions. Those are each 5 each of those 5 sessions. We've had healing trauma workshops for adults with art. We've also done them with children. We've had about 5 to 8. We've had to limit on those for numbers just because of COVID. We're hoping to be able to increase those next year. And then we're also looking forward to next year. We're going to be adding a Hispanic component to it for some parent trainings in that, and we'll be doing a lot of Love and Logic for that. And then my last slide is on our homeless McKinney-Vento program. And that's been huge, as we've as we have a new person who's our educational liaison in that area, Laura Burdine. She's done an amazingly great job pulling together the resources for that, working with students, partnering. The Tooele Foundation has been fabulous. She's worked with them so that we actually have a PayPal account on their website, so they can donate straight to the homeless one, or they could donate to the foundation, which is huge for us, because if you think about people wanting to do food, and because we do meals constantly, then $10 can go a long ways, where people may not feel comfortable with $100 or $200. Deseret Industries did us a $7,000 grant for things there. The Rotary Clubs did $1,000. Now, the one not on this list that I asked that wasn't on it is ski trucks. They're in by the fairgrounds. They donate about 100 coats, brand new coats, to us this year. Another change is all of our clothes are new with COVID, shoes, any of those. Walmart Distribution Center also has done huge donations for us this year. Shirts, belts, they've done a laptop, they've done a ton of hygiene items, school supplies, sorts of things like that with us. So we really appreciate the supports in each of those areas with that. So we couldn't do this without your support and knowing that we have that backing. So I wanted to say thank you, and do you have any questions for me?
I just want to say thank you. This is a huge department in our district, and sometimes hard things that all of you and counselors and social workers deal with. And thank you, and tell your staff thank you, and we appreciate all they do.
Thank you. We appreciate that, and we do have amazing partnerships in our county. We feel very blessed.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay. All right, 5.3, My Tech High, Blue Peak Online.
All right. Well, I want to start off by first saying thank you to the board, the superintendency, our district leadership. I have the greatest job in the district. It is absolutely amazing. I get to work with some amazing staff members, great kids, and this year's been tough, but it's been fun, and we've tested our limits on some things that we're doing, but we really appreciate the support of the board and our district leadership. So thank you, guys. All right, so can we get that? Is it just loading? Okay.
It's taking a while even on mine.
I should have brought my iPad up.
It's because we all did it. Yeah, yeah. I know it is. I don't know. Is yours loaded? No, mine's not. You went first.
All right, so looks like we've got the MyTech High PowerPoint up first. So what I'd like to do is yield some of my time to a tremendous partner, Matt Bowman with MyTech High. And then I will jump in when he is done.
Thank you. We'll go first.
All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Matt Bowman. I also want to introduce Dave Wells, our general manager. Some of you were here in 2017 when we first engaged in a contract with us, and so we're now 3 years finished that contract. We renewed in 2020, and we're just excited to give you a quick update. I know just with so many things going on, let's just jump right into it. You have a copy there for you. I'm not going to cover every slide, but I wanted to give the board all the documentation. If you're new to what we do, it's all there. And so just kind of let me touch on some highlights and see if you have any questions. Okay, so again, the first slide just gives a little bit of my background. I've been involved in education and technology and entrepreneurship for over 30 years. Certified teacher, master's degree in education, and just love education. It is amazing, inspiring opportunity. The next slide shows a summary of kind of the Maitakai principles of just what we're guided by. Every child's unique. Everyone really, we want to provide a personalized education for as many children as we can. We just love the focus on entrepreneurship and innovation. We also believe that community education resources are really valuable to engage with families. And a strong foundation in tech is critical for future success in college, career, and life. Moving on to the bell curves, just is interesting data. As you think about, for 100 years, our system served the main population very well, but we always had personalized education on both ends of this curve. If you go to the next slide, the demands are just changing, where there is much more demand for personalized everything, from your cell phone to your DNA to everything. And so personalized education the demand for it is just growing. There's always a role for that standardized set, but personalized on both ends just continues to grow. And Tooele is a leader in this space. Next slide. I wanted just to share, won't go through all this stuff, but it's kind of a national trend that I wanted Tooele board to know how you really are on this cutting edge of all of this. Again, COVID forced all schools into a remote learning setting. You've been doing it for 3 years already. And so it's amazing to see where you are. Even as of January, 50% were still full-time across the country. And a third of them have said they're going to stay with online learning. And so that's a huge shift to this arena. And of the Maitakai families, we're up to, we more than doubled last year, and we have almost 90% returning. And so it's just interesting to see those numbers continue to show interest in it. We're highlighted regularly in different media outlets, and I wanted to call out Superintendent Rogers. He was a finalist nominee for an Education Innovation Award. This being the conference is happening in June, but he was a finalist nominee for fostering intelligence and transforming education. So we really are led, and even today I was on a call with a national thought leader who said, you know what, your program simply needs an innovative superintendent, doesn't it? And I said, yes. And I thought, oh, how appropriate for today's update. It really, that's what it needs. It needs someone who can see that students need a variety of options and be able to present options to families is what Tooele is doing, and which leads to the next slide. This year, we're now serving over 18,000 students across 7 states. But if you look there, the green is the Tooele portion of that 18,000. You are the largest partner in the whole country for us. And you see you're over 7,300 students just in that little green square. And you can see the growth from last year has just been really crazy to have that much interest. And we are predicting almost the same numbers for next year, whereas we thought we'd drop back down to the pre-COVID levels, but we're not. So it's just phenomenal. Next slide. This is just a celebration of our partnership with the Digital Education Center, formerly known as Blue Peak Online. Some cool data points here. You see the numbers, 7,300. We're actually looking at 7,800. We've been forecasting with LARC, so we're actually going to grow that with Tooele this next year. And Hal's going to mention a little bit that, but with our partnership with Snow College and other colleges, we had 2,000 college credits earned in fall semester only across just 232 students. So that's really cool how many are getting, and many are getting their associate degree. And through Snow College, our partnership with them, and it's just a phenomenal program. And Hal can talk more about Snow. Let's see. Lots of industry certifications, credentials, job offers. Many kids starting their own businesses. Testing on scores on state testing are matching or exceeding those of traditional students. We fully align with the USBE strategic plan around personalized education. So we map to their objectives, their strategic plan around choice and opportunities for families. And then the portrait of graduate that Superintendent Roger mentioned. We started this year virtual student clubs, and we had 1,000 students sign up for just our virtual clubs across all these different subjects. It's really cool. Gets them the social connection amongst all the kids all across the whole state. Included an esports one that's really cool, and Hal and I have been chatting about how to get Tooele involved in our esports competitions and tournaments we've been having. It's a lot of fun. The next slide, just around some student highlights, just want to call out. Really, it's, just like students are unique, so is their success stories. You can't just define it by one data point or whatever. It's such a broad way that students are finding success. We have actors that student was in NCIS. We have world second place world ballroom dancers. We have Lego League champions. We have Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year award winners. One of them was a Tooele County student. Next slide, military families is a big draw for our program, is keeping the military child experience consistent, even if they're deployed. So as long as they're maintain their Utah residency and are temporarily deployed, they can remain in the Tooele MyTech High program and keep that educational consistency, even if they're, this story is of family moved to South Korea, maintained our online college program, and just loved it to be able to have that flexibility. So with that, I want to just end with the last slide, celebrating the team that's involved. These are all Tooele County school district employees, and they just have done a phenomenal job. Imagine last fall when I told them expect about 4,000 students next week, and they had to process them all and review all the packets and all that stuff, and they had just stepped up to the plate, and so they're ready, and they say bring on 700-800 for this year. So really is kudos to them and to all of you for making this possible. So any questions from anything I quickly shared or in the data that you have?
Thank you.
Okay,
That's
thanks.
awesome. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Hal? Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for listening to the people. I appreciate it.
Don't go, we need your voice, man.
All right, so the Digital Education Center, we're really excited about the being our own school this next year, and moving forward with that vision of online education. So if we can go next slide. So through the Digital Education Center, we're meeting the needs of our district students. We have the full-time online for Edgenuity for our 7th grade up through our 12th grade. We have full-time for our elementary school using the Edgenuity Pathblazer system. And then we have the full-time through our partner MyTech High. In addition to that, we also have adult education. We have our Snow College, which we have fit underneath that Edgenuity for the 7 to 12, and the a la carte classes throughout Tooele County School District. So the things we're doing are helping kids accomplish their dreams, move forward in their education, and then move forward in their lives. So we can go next slide. This year we experienced tremendous growth. So you can see last year our total enrollment at the end of the school year was 3,243 students. This year, as of, if I remember right, it was May 3rd, our enrollment was 8,864. That's down from our peak. We did peak at slightly over 9,500 students with COVID, MyTech High, but then with the withdrawals going back to the brick and mortar schools, we've dropped down to 8,864. We can go to next slide. All right.
It is the largest school in the state at 80. I mean, just to give you perspective, board members, Sevier School District has 4,000 students roughly, so it's twice as big as Sevier District. Just our online learners. A lot of great homeschool families that are involved in that program.
Yes, yes. So I want to talk a little bit about the Snow College program. Now this, the Snow College program, really, this came about at this early stage because of our partnership with MyTech High. Superintendent and I were able to go down and meet with the president of Snow College, President Cook, along with Mr. Bowman. And we talked about the visionary leadership that President Cook has and that Superintendent Rogers has. and that Matt Bowman has. And we discussed how we can get our high school students involved in an early college experience. And we jumped on board and got started with this first semester. And we had 126 courses completed by, I think it was 52 students. And of those courses that were completed, 125 were A's and 1 was a B. Tremendous accomplishment for our Tooele County School District students. So as of the 4th of May, we had 40 graduates this school year in Blue Peak Online. As of today, we had submitted some more graduates. We've got 50 graduates. So we've got 7 adult education graduates. We've got a few more who are very close, and we're hoping are going to make that cut by graduation time. Our total enrollment was 8,864 on May 3rd, like we mentioned before. We did peak out at slightly over 9,500. We thought as COVID started to dwindle, we would see more numbers migrating back to the brick and mortar. But what we're hearing from a lot of our students is that they really like the online experience, and so we're having a lot of students who are deciding to stay with online. So again, thank you for the support that you guys have given us. So since July 15th of 2020, we had 3,062 requests for enrollment in Blue Peak Online. So that's not our MyTech High partnership, that's Blue Peak Online. Now, not all of those students ended up enrolling with us, and some of those were duplicates, but we had 3,062 requests come in with a formal application. Now, as of January 3rd, we've had 491 applicants. So there are some days where we have 10 plus applicants coming in wanting to enroll in Blue Peak Online. So let's go next slide. All right, so next steps. We are really excited for what the future brings. So as Matt talked about, we've talked about ways we can get our students involved in clubs and competitions with that online feel, that online atmosphere. And we've talked about esports. It's a growing popular activity in Utah, and we're really excited to start exploring that more in depth as we move forward with our program. Makerspaces, right now we share Makerspace with the CLC. Looking at the future, we're looking for kind of an independent makerspace for us where we can invite not only the Blue Peak Online students, but also work with our MyTech High partners, and hopefully at some point reach out to community members and bring community members in for some experiences in those makerspaces. They can see what their kids are learning, and they can actually take part in those activities. We're looking at with the numbers we've got, we're looking at ways that we can give the students that online experience, but also have a little bit of that personal touch for that face-to-face. That it's just not cutting it to have the Zoom meeting. I need to be physically in a lab. So we're looking at some live in-person lab experiences for students, expanding that capability. And we're also looking to broaden our online offerings. We're working with Edgenuity right now to look at some expansion of courses. We've worked with our CTE director, and we're talking about how we can involve or how we can include some more CTE courses in that. Our outlying schools, Wendover and Dugway, have really truly benefited a lot from these programs, and I would say our our larger high schools are benefiting tremendously as well. But we're able to bring programs to Dugway and Wendover that they wouldn't have access to without this program. So the next slide, and it's just a great big thank you again, because this couldn't happen without all of your support. Do you guys have any questions for me? Well, thank you guys.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Dr. Rogers, 5.4, 2021-2022 weekly school schedule.
Very quickly, there's been a lot of discussion. We've received lots of feedback. We looked at our data. At our work session, you had lots of data, and at the previous board meeting. And so I've pulled my cabinet together. We're recommending to you that we go back to school on a 5-day face-to-face schedule next year. And because it's what's right, in my opinion, when you look at data. Of course, you've got lots of different opinions out there. And with respect to that, notwithstanding, we've got to look at our data and not just emotion and opinion. And when you look at our data, it shows that attendance was really impacted on Friday. I think by and large, teachers in Utah should be really excited because many states did not go back to face-to-face instruction. And Utah did. We had activities, we had extracurricular activities, we had dances, etc. And so our teachers did a great job. But our recommendation would be to go back to that 5-day schedule with, and then of course we have the half day. And that half day is primarily for the purpose of PLC, collaboration and prep time, especially for our elementary. So as I've consulted with folks from TEA and from our leadership team, we are recommending actually that our secondary schools, which is grades 7 through 12, continue to have their early release day on a Friday. It works better with Utah Technical College. But our elementary K-6 programs, including our preschools, our teachers, we've heard them loud and clear, and they would prefer that early release day to move to Wednesday. And so we are going to recommend to you and move forward. This is not, of course, a action item, but really there were a lot of factors that we looked at, a lot of data. We have our RISE scores coming in. They don't look really good. Our mid-year Acadience data doesn't look good on K through 3. So I just need to give a shout out to Rick Harrison and Becca Hall. The board and President Rich asked me to reach out, to collaborate, to listen and find out what was going on as far as on our schedule. And that's my recommendation as superintendent at this point in time. So that's the way we're moving forward unless you give us further direction. That's all I have.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion that we go back to 3.1 to the patron comments.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motioned by Valerie, seconded by Julia to move to 3.1 on patron comments.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
Does this mean that item 5.4 has concluded?
Well, I was hoping for a discussion item, or for
Discussion on what the superintendent talked to us about.
It is a discussion.
Okay.
So were you wanting to?
We're certainly, I asked if you, if I would stand for questions, and so it's certainly appropriate to have a discussion, and I don't want to get in the way of the motion that's on the floor, but.
No, and I don't either. I
if you
support
have
it.
any-
I just want to be able to return to this topic after we have patron comments. So I just wanted to
I don't
clarify
have
that
any
point.
additional unless you have questions, but
Yeah.
you certainly have that prerogative to ask clarifying questions.
And so I guess I'm asking more Valerie if it was her understanding of her motion.
I'm sorry, I thought 5.4 was over, but
Okay.
if it's a discussion, I'm okay with finishing that.
Okay.
Well, and
Since
I'm
we're on
okay
the
to
topic.
wait until after patron comments to have the discussion as well. Let's just go ahead and do that then. I mean, that's what I would support, I guess I should say.
Okay, sounds good.
So we're going ahead with their motion? Or we're going ahead with the discussion? Yes, we have to vote. All in favor of or moving 3.1? Yes. Aye. Motion passes. Okay, 3.1 is patron comments. Let me just go over the rules for patron comments. There's a 3-minute time limit. As you come up to the mic, if you'll please say your name. And there will be a 3-minute timer. And then our total amount is 30 minutes in patron comments. Just to remind people what patron comments is, it's a comment period intended to provide individuals with an uninterrupted opportunity to address the board and a time for the board to actively listen to its community members. However, according to state law, the board is unable to deliberate or take action on items raised during the public comment period. When appropriate, the district will direct district staff to follow up with the speaker. And speech that defames individuals or interrupts the public business of the board will not be tolerated and may be cause for removal. And individuals who disrupt board meetings or the business of the board by applause, jeering, cheering, or personal outbursts may be removed. So our first one is Mitzi Belverstone.
Good evening. My name is Mitzi Belverstone. I'm representing the Transportation Department for Tooele County School District. We have 125 employees. We are strong, united, and a proud team. We have a couple of questions for you. What prohibits a classified transportation employee from attaining more than 29.5 hours per week? With asking that, we have to outsource some of our field trip and split our routes because we are restricted to working only 29.5 hours per week. Back on May 24th, 2013, PTO and URS benefits were removed for 20-hour or more employees. Can these benefits be reinstated for the start of 21-22 school year? Right now, we are seriously short of drivers, sub-drivers, aides, and sub-aides. So when anyone calls in sick, we must either juggle routes around, which causes us to be late for other routes, overcrowds our buses, and we have to pull office staff or mechanics, which takes away from their duties. As drivers, we are the first school district employees, authority figures to interact with the students and try to make their day much better when they come out of their home in tears. We are the last person to see them at the end of the day and deal with them if they've had a tough day at school. We love what we do and we care for our students. Please help us make it more attractive to bring in new employees and retain the ones we have so they do not go to other districts where the wages are higher and benefits available. We would like to invite you to come around and ride this winter first thing in the morning or in the afternoons on a special needs, behavioral, and a regular route bus to see it through an adult's eyes. Thank you for giving me your time, all your hard work, and for the extra money you gave us in November. We do truly appreciate it. And we want to just give you a little something to say thank you because you guys do for us. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Rebecca Benyon.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Benyon. I am a mother of two, and I'm here today on behalf of my children and many parents and their children throughout Tooele County. Our voices are being ignored. Parents have witnessed over the months the negative impact masks are having on our children. They have caused physical and mental health problems that are irreversible. I have been told by the district superintendent, Mr. Rogers, that he has found no credible resources or evidence of this. Are we, as parents, not credible? These are our children suffering. These are our lives. It does not take a doctor, scientist, or some study to tell you this. We, as parents, have the best interest in our children's overall health and education. We are the advocates and voices for them. Listen to us and our children. Our rights as parents needs to be upheld and respected. I would like to ask the other parents here if they have had their parental rights violated by the school or district this year to stand up and stay standing if those issues were not resolved. I ask you to look into your hearts with compassion and empathy. Unmask our children today. Respect our choice as parents, and do not let another child suffer one more day under this board. Thank you for your time.
Okay, Jamie Jensen.
Before I start, I just want to show you
Would you please state your name and speak into the mic?
Jamie
Thank you.
Jensen, and before I start, I just want to show you, I have a list of 100 families that represents being here tonight with their addresses, and they're all in this district. Okay, so I'm speaking on masks as well, but from a different viewpoint. I first want to say that you can be for masks, and you can also stand for your freedom. A whole lot of people who are pro-mask don't understand that they're not only stripping other people of their God-given rights and freedoms to choose differently than them, but their own rights as well. Because this isn't about masks. It is about parental rights and freedoms not being upheld by the laws that are giving us those protections. You are setting a precedence for future circumstances that will come up by ignoring these laws that protect parental right and choice of freedom. It is a dangerous play that you're making by assuming this is about a mask. Our freedom and rights to make choices for ourselves and our children should never be in question. It goes against everything our country was founded on. It goes against our sacred Constitution that is there to uphold our liberties. It legally goes against our Utah law. It is a slap in the face to all those who have shed their blood and sacrificed their own life to give each of us the freedom that we hold today and the freedom that we're desperately trying to preserve right now at this meeting. Realize the responsibility you hold in making these decisions that take freedom away. It is wrong. You may think that a mask is no big deal and people should just be fine to go along with it, even if it's against their beliefs or health. Well, it is a big deal because freedom is being stripped over something you deem as small. What's going to happen when something bigger than masks show up? And because an insignificant mask took freedom away, there will be no way to fight something bigger when you set the precedence beforehand to reject law-abiding citizens' freedoms to choose according to their own dictate, conscience, personal circumstances, and health, of which you have no indignation or compassion because you don't know their story. You are making these choices sitting behind a desk without even looking into the eyes of the people pleading for their rights and freedoms to be upheld. We elected you, board members, to appoint people who would stand and represent us as parents. I'm sorry. One who would we elected you to represent us, and we elected you to appoint people who would represent us and to uphold the decisions we would make if we were able to stand in your place. I've got to keep going. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Actually, 3 minutes is up, but thank you so much. If you want to turn your thing in, it will be listed on public comment. So thank you. Our next patron comment is Corey Park. It's a public forum. It is a public forum, and people are more than welcome to
Don't
come
start the timer
sometimes.
till you're done.
So, okay. 3 minutes is starting. Thank
My
you.
name is Corey Park, and I also came to, as a grandparent, to talk about the parents' rights in the Constitution, but also about the critical race theory that is already being taught in Tooele schools. It is a dangerous, divisive, indoctrinating program that is harmful to children of all colors. But instead of talking about that, I feel compelled instead to talk about the behavior of the board tonight. These people are here because they are concerned about their children. You are voted for. You're here to represent us. People have put their trust in you to make decisions for their children. Their most valuable relationships in the world. And you've been disrespectful of their time. You played little games with where you put the agenda. They were told they would be third on the agenda. These parents are here because they're concerned. Now, whether you think their concerns are legitimate or not, they're concerned. And I think every one of you should think about that. Seriously, I think you guys are almost proud of yourselves, high-fiving yourselves at how you've put them off until the end of this meeting. And I'm really appalled. I'm appalled. And I'll be honest with you. I know who I voted for, and I felt good about voting for him, and I do not any longer. And I will do my part to make sure that I don't make that same
If you'll
error in
please hold your
judgment again.
applause.
I will make sure I do not make that error again.
Okay, Jason Markham.
All right, hi, my name's Jason Markham, father of three, just a concerned parent for my children. So first I just want to start by reading part of the Utah State Constitution. So it's section 62A-4A-201, Rights of Parents and Children's Rights. So section 1A says, under both the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state, a parent possesses a fundamental liberty interest in the care, custody, and management of the parent's children. A fundamentally fair process must be provided to parents if the state moves to challenge or interfere with parental rights. Section C says the right of a fit, competent parent to raise the parent's child without undue government interference is a fundamental liberty interest that has long been protected by the laws and Constitution and is a fundamental public policy of the state. Section D states the state recognizes that a parent has the right, obligation, responsibility, and authority to raise, manage, train, educate, and provide and care for reasonably disciplined parents' children. The state's role is secondary and supportive to the primary role of a parent. It is not the responsibility of the state to dictate how to best manage the health and well-being of our children. It is the responsibility of us, the parents. We call on you, our elected representatives, to wake up and hear us loud and clear that we as parents make the decision of what is best for our children and whether we want to send our children to school in a mask or not. Masking can do positive harm to children, physically, mentally, and emotionally, as it can to some adults as well. But the cost-benefit analysis is entirely different for adults and children, particularly young children. Whatever arguments there may be for consenting adults, children should not be required to wear masks to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Of course, zero risk is not attainable without masks, vaccines, therapeutics, distancing, anything else that the government agencies may impose. It is our fundamental right as parents to decide if our children should wear a mask or not. Please give the right back to us, the parents. And I would just like to close by saying that a temporary suspension of our rights will inevitably end in the permanent revocation of our liberties. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Briggs.
Hello, my name is Greg Briggs, and I am going to be addressing thoughts on critical race theory, which should be rejected wholeheartedly from our school system. As an 80s and 90s child who was raised in that time, I believed wholeheartedly in the message of Martin Luther King Jr. that people should be judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. However, I believe today that this ideology and dream is under extreme attack by an infectious disease that is seeking to enshrine itself in our institutions, like a specter of Jim Crow past. That is critical race theory and CRT. This, like an assassin's bullet, strikes at the very heart of the civil rights movement and the American Constitution and founding ideals of the Declaration of Independence. It turns back our societal clock and reinstates race as an essential value of identity in society, and also bestowing an unearned, false, and undeserved victim or oppressor label, regardless of individual circumstance and evidence. Professor John McWhorter of Columbia University has rightfully labeled this ideology as a, quote, totalitarian and unnecessary kind of cultural reprogramming, unquote, which is spread through fear, intimidation, and societal slander. I'm sure my grandfather and step-grandfather who served in World War II would shudder at the eerie similarity to the imperialist or fascist youth indoctrination programs of the era. Unfortunately, there are people in our society who think that injustices of the past can only be corrected by institutionalizing new ones. Winston Churchill is rumored to have said the fascists of the future will call themselves anti-fascists. People who are promoting CRT are in danger of, in fighting racism, of institutionalizing it once more. This is unfortunately already filtering down into all schools across the nation. At Grace Church High School, a teacher has been vilified, and every excuse to terminate him has been employed by trying to get him fired because he dared speak out against the CRT program of his school, which was demonizing white kids, and his own supervisor admitted was demeaning their self-worth. In any other circumstance or place, we would call that abuse or harassment, or if it was any other race, we would label it rightly as racism. Likewise, in Rockwood, Missouri, a school district member sent out a message to her middle and high school principals who were receiving questions about their CRT program that they should falsify and create a separate false curriculum to disseminate parents to hide what they were actually teaching their children. I come from a long line of teachers, and I've been a teacher myself. Let me tell you quite frankly, if you are hiding what you are teaching from my child from me, you are evil. Next, if we think this will stop at just the school level, this goes directly into our employment circles, as is viewed recently by Coca-Cola's recent CR training, which basically told its people to be less white. Imagine if that had been said to any other race or ethnicity. Abraham Lincoln once said the following: "As I would not be a slave, so I would not be a master. If you do not wish to be discriminated against because of your race, gender, ethnicity, etc., you cannot be discriminated for it based on it as well."
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. If you want to submit the rest of it, it could go on the notes or on the minutes. Our next patron comment is Truxton Moulton. Did I get that right? Okay.
Very articulate, I will tell.
Hi, I'm Truxton Moulton, and I have a couple kids in school right now. I'm concerned about the masks as well. I've talked to principals. I've talked to Mark, and I wrote you a letter and got nothing from you. And seeing how you've treated everything here tonight with the people here with me, this is not right. The buck stops here. There's other school districts out there who have, following the mandate, who have had policies that allow parents' rights. There's other schools that have policies that restrict parents' rights. Tooele, where's yours? I've gone through, I've asked for policies. We're trying to work within the mandate. I'm worried about my kids' health. I wrote a letter. Are you going to accept it or not? What's the policy? You guys, it ends here. I went up the chain's down. It's you guys. What is your decision on this? What are you going to do with parents' rights? Are you going to uphold them? Because it's clear you don't care about the kids' health. If you were, you would be monitoring oxygen levels. You would be making sure that the masks were clean. You'd be making sure they weren't touching the mask. You would make sure of all these other things if we were really concerned about this. And you aren't. You just gave them a little piece of fabric and said, oh, that's good. That was the minimum requirement to be done. You didn't read any of the studies, see what you actually needed to be done if you were going to wear these masks properly to have any protection from them. No. You guys are a disgrace. I can't believe that it's taken this long for me to work up and come here to talk to you guys. So what's the decision? What's the policy? I guess we can't make a decision, so it'll be another month or another 2, or put it on an agenda. Maybe push that off the agenda. You guys are...
Okay, our next one, Rebecca Bates.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Bates, and I'm a math teacher at Tooele High School. And I'm actually here to talk about the weekly school schedule. And first, I just want to say, Superintendent Rogers, thank you so much for your recommendation. I can't tell you how much, as a teacher, I appreciate you recommending that we do go back to school full-time. As a math teacher, I have a lot of material that I'm required to teach, and that material is already really difficult for my students. In our current high school schedule, I see my students for only 70 minutes every other day. In a normal year, time constraints make it difficult for me to help my students be able to understand the many things they have to know before they can move on to the next math class. This year, that task was virtually impossible. My team and I had to cut 3 entire units that we typically teach because we simply didn't have the time this year to teach them. This has left my students unprepared for their math classes next year, which is particularly concerning when you consider that many of my students will be taking AP and college courses next year, and they aren't ready for those courses yet. This year, I've watched test scores drop as fewer and fewer of my students participate in online learning Fridays, and I spend more and more of my class time trying to make up the learning that they failed to do in those online days. This year, we as teachers had to learn to navigate a world made uncertain by COVID, and the extra planning time was a welcome boon for us. We have appreciated that you as a board recognize our need for additional time to prepare instruction for students who are both online and in person and sometimes bouncing back and forth. We really appreciate that you recognize that. However, that time also came at the expense of Tier 1 instruction, and it has made it really difficult for us to be able to teach all of the things we need to teach this year. Instruction time with my students in my classroom is my most precious resource. As I watched the board's work session a few weeks ago, I became concerned as I listened to some discussion talking about perhaps maintaining the online workday or changing it into something that's not classroom instruction. I have so little time with my students as it is. Please do not chip away at my precious time by taking away another 33 days of instruction. As a core subject teacher who needs every moment with her students she can get, I am asking you as a board to please vote to return to 5 days of regular face-to-face in classroom instruction next year. Please give me as a teacher the time that I need to effectively help my students be successful in mathematics. Thank you.
Thank you. A name was crossed off, but I want to make sure that they've left or haven't left. Either one. Jean Buell. Did you want your... you crossed your name off. I didn't know if you were still here. Okay.
Thanks for coming back, Gene.
Thank you. So I'd like first off thank you guys for at least having schools open this year, because having kids at my house all year, that would have been a long school season. So my kids have a choice to eat school lunch or eat lunch that my wife makes for them. They have a choice to wear boots during the winter when it snows or shoes. They have a choice whether they wear shorts to school, pants, whether they wear a coat or no coat. I would like you guys to step up and give all these kids, a choice whether they mask or not mask. There's more germs in that mask than what they're breathing in, I promise you that. Your guys' hands are touching your face more with the mask on than not. I just hope that this does not carry over next fall when school opens again, worried about the flu. Because we're losing our freedoms as we speak. That's all I got.
Thank you. Okay, our next one is Kim Truesdale.
My name is Kim Truesdale. I personally think I should get 6 minutes because in August, when you violated the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Civil Rights Act by calling the police on me because I actually have a medical exemption, I shamed you all, except for Ms. Shield. She wasn't here. There's 3 of you that are up for election next year. The guy just asked, why don't you care? I've heard that you guys don't think it's worth pursuing because there's only 2.5 weeks left of school. You don't think parental rights are worth pursuing. We elected each and every one of you to listen to us. You don't care. We saw your little picture outside the day you guys watching the torch go by, and all of you guys are all maskless, and then we saw the picture of Rose Springs Elementary students. And I'm sorry, but their faces are a lot cuter than yours. And they're all sitting out there masked outside. Can't even cheer. This is disgusting. This was actually this game that you played tonight too. Whoever started chipping away at the agenda, that is bull crap. We had multiple people call. We were told we would be the 3rd on the agenda. And here we are, you're playing your game. I don't get it, but I'm telling you that 3 of you are up for election, and I'm gonna make it my mission that we replace all 3 of you. We replaced Marissa for not listening to parental rights. You guys don't seem to care. You're up here gaffing us off. You talk about data. Follow your data. There is no data that says that masking healthy elementary children is safe. You guys are gaffing parental rights. We've sent you multiple things from lawyers that says that the Constitution, that this mandate will allow for parental rights, but you kept saying it's not worth pursuing. There's only 2.5 weeks. Well, parental rights are worth pursuing now. They're worth pursuing tomorrow. They're worth pursuing in August when I came here to tell you shame on you all for not pushing back against masking healthy children. You guys, this is ridiculous. And this game that you played by pushing us off and waiting children, shame on you all. This board is a joke. You should be listening to parents. You should be accepting parental mandates. You should be talking to the lawyers. There are 5 different counties. There's an American Preparatory Academy has 5,500 students, and they're accepting parental exemptions because that is what the mandate states. But you guys don't care about parental exemptions. You guys don't care about the kids either. Because if you did, you would let them go outside. You would let the parents. I do not co-parent with you. I do not co-parent with Tooele County School Board. I do not co-parent with the government. You answer to us. And this is ridiculous that you will not accept parental rights. You've actually even gaffed off 3 or 4 medical exemptions from doctors, claiming that it wasn't right, the form wasn't filled out. Oh, we're gonna meet next Thursday to discuss this. Meanwhile, these kids are out of school. These kids aren't even in school, and you don't give a crap. Hey, why don't you guys give yourselves a pat on the back? Because that's what I feel like you guys have been doing all night. Pat yourself on the back and give yourselves kudos for everything you're doing, but you don't give a crap about the kids or parental rights, so shame on you. And I cannot wait to replace the 3 members that are up next year.
Bye-bye. Okay, is it Tana or Jana? Tana, I'm sorry. Tana Taylor.
Satana Taylor. So I wasn't planning to speak tonight, but I became really disappointed. I don't know if you know how hard it is to get up here. That's why I'm emotional. I came up here last fall, and I was shaking. It is really hard to get up here. And I was confident they were going to listen. I think they were too tonight. Look, I know the issue I spoke about last time, mass, is very difficult. I know you're put in a really hard place. But you just made this guy sit with his 3 kids for 2 hours. I would note they've been very behaved for 2 hours of sitting here as well. You made them wait way longer than necessary because not one of you objected to any of those motions. He's here because it's important, and I'm sure he would rather be home with his kids like I would as well. I've been to many of these meetings. I've only spoken once before, but I've never seen you move the agenda like that, never. I'm in shock of what I witnessed, and I thank Valerie and Julia for finally doing the right thing. Thank you. I'm not saying I agree with everything that's been said tonight, and you may not agree as well, but what you did was wrong, and tonight I started to lose all my faith in the board until Valerie and Julia tried to make it right. I have faith that you're not going to do this again. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think each of you are a good person because I think that's why you ran for school board. You hopefully care for kids. I come to you because I still have a little faith of you, and I hope that you are listening to all these things that are said tonight. I ask you to take these comments to heart and never delay public comment again. I would like to finish with a quote from, I may say her name wrong, Kara Birkland. If you don't know her, she is a representative for the the Utah Legislative Board. She said, I've been seeing posts about how shocked some people are that parents are getting loud and organizing demonstrations at public meetings. I'm not shocked. Parents don't feel heard. That's on elected officials. That's on me. When people don't feel heard, they usually start taking more drastic approaches. If we want to see more civil discourse in our society, it can start with us. I know I can do a better job of hearing people, especially those that I disagree with. I'm not saying you have to agree with everything that's said, but please at least listen and try to address it. Thank you.
Okay, that is it for public comment. Okay, we were on item 5.4, discussion item.
Madam President?
Yes, thank you.
I had a couple of comments and not really questions. I mean, it seems like for the most part the issue has been resolved, and I, to the extent any concerns I had during last meeting, I certainly don't want to be understood to be anti 5-day in face-to-face classrooms. I did want to just make a couple of quick points for consideration and for maybe to give us some more thought about this. The first is just a general one about the differing early out day, and I understand, or I think I understand the respective objectives and interests at the secondary level, at the elementary level. I do worry about some families, my own included, about having our kids on different early out schedules, just in terms of logistics and figuring things out as a family. So that's one point that I wanted to make. The other two that I wanted to make had to do with the 4-day, 5-day kind of discussion and the digital learning day. The first is when we were talking at length last week about the design of the new high school, which among board members has been relatively controversial. One of the points that was made is that if we keep doing what we've always done, we're going to get the same results that we always have. And so that comes to mind when we talk about changing the architecture of the school versus deciding what to do with our school week. And the other thing that I think that at least I'm not persuaded by is we've heard a lot of discussion about data, and I cannot be the only parent or person in this community who realizes that the schedule change was not the only difference about this last year. And so to suggest that it was